Welcome to another episode of Exit Philosophy. He's Mal, I'm Griff, and before we get into this exciting conclusion of a losing World Series for the Blue Jays, but one that we'll talk about for the next hour and for years to come, actually.
Longer than that, yeah.
Just want to thank our subscribers for listening. Thanks for subscribing to Exit Philosophy on either YouTube or where you get your podcasts. And don't forget to like, share, and leave us a review. But let's get into what many are calling the most interesting and exciting Game 7 of a World Series ever. So just before we get into specifics, what was your impression, Mal, watching and sort of angsting along with the rest of Canada?
I'm almost still, like I said, a little worn out still, even a couple days later. But particularly yesterday, it was draining, I would say. Just the drama of so many things right from the first inning onward. There was just something to talk about, something crazy going on, high drama the whole way through. If you're not entertained, but literally I was drained, I would say, by watching that, just the emotions left, right, and center. So fantastic for the sport. You can't ask for much more than that, obviously, other than a victory would have been what you could ask for. But I don't know how you felt about it, but and obviously different for you. You were in the building. I was watching on TV with the millions at home, as they say. So how was your perspective, more importantly?
Well, being there in person, I get it 12 seconds before you do at home. So that's a major difference. I think the emotions were all the same. But I just want to, to get into it, I just want to point out sort of the juxtaposition of the same player and how it affected Game 7. I'm looking at Bo Bichette. And I tweeted something on Bo in the second inning when he walked. And we all know that he's got the banged up knee and he really can't go more than station to station. And that was evident leading off the second inning. He walked and Barger lobbed a single that would have normally have sent the runner first to third. And Bo had to stop rounding second because of the knee. So you're going, why is Bo in the lineup when he can't run, when he really is ineffective as a runner playing second base? And to Bo's credit, it didn't bother him at second base. He made some really good plays, which we'll get into later about the possibility that he could be a second baseman, much as Marcus Semien did, making the transition from short to second. But we'll get into that later. So first and second, and then Ernie Clement singles with 2 out. And Bo can't score again. I mean, if he'd gone first to third, he would have scored. And you're thinking, oh, this is going to affect the game somehow. And then contrast that with the euphoria that fans felt in the very next inning when Bo steps in and delivers a 3-run homer off Ohtani. And just the same guy, a very different result. But even when he homered off Ohtani, you felt they needed more. The impression I got just sitting there watching was 3 runs isn't going to be enough. They need to add on. Did you have that same feeling?
Oh, for sure. For sure. And, just on Bichette right there, you're talking about the contrast. I know we're going to get into it later on about IKF, but IKF's in Bo's spot because he can't run, and the ramifications of his at bat in the 10th and obviously the base running, which we'll discuss. It came back again. That's Bo's spot, and take the good with the bad. It's a 3-run homer, but there are other 2 very critical moments where it came back to hurt them too. So I mean, it's just whether it's good or bad, it's just unbelievable story just to talk about all of them. But yeah, you knew 3-0 the Dodgers weren't going to go away quietly unless they could just tack on a couple more, and obviously they couldn't do that. And we saw what ensued, but you knew 3 wasn't going to get it done, but it was sure a hell of a start. There's no question.
And just, all those commenting on the genius of Dave Roberts and the moves that he made in Game 7. I think he started it off on a negative note when he left Ohtani to go out for the third inning. Ohtani had thrown 43 pitches in the first 2 innings. And normal, if you're having a decent inning, it's 15 per inning. That's what you look for as a pitcher, as a pitching coach. So he's at 43 after 2 innings, and this is after playing every inning of every game as a DH the whole month of October. And this is Game 7 of a World Series, and you've already said that everyone is available on your pitching staff. And he said everyone except Yamamoto, which we wish that was the case. But we'll get into that a little later, too.
Yeah, right.
To begin the game, it looked like Roberts was feeling the pressure more than John Schneider by leaving Ohtani in and then giving up that 3-run homer.
Yeah, that had you Darvish vibes from many playoffs ago.
That's the great thing about baseball. There's no clock. You need to get 27 outs to record the win, and we're getting into everything a little bit later. But right. Springer in the lineup. I mean, that shocked me that he was able to play after that oblique. And we saw some discomfort on some of his swings, but the guy's a gamer. There's no doubt about it. He got 3 hits, and then he struck out his final 3 at bats, and who knows how much of that was, the length of the game and the oblique acting up on him. But him being in the game surprised me. Him staying in the game shows what type of a gamer he was. Did it surprise you that he was, not this game, but the game before when he decided that he was able to play and John Schneider allowed him to go back in his leadoff spot?
Well, anytime you come up with some sort of, I assume, oblique injury, his side, obviously, you're thinking that's it, because you don't really recover very much, right? Too quickly from those types of things. So when you saw him in the lineup, I was curious to see what it would look like Game 6, but Game 7, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to criticize. He looked great. He got 3 hits, and then clearly he struggled. That at-bat versus Snell, that was the big one. If he could just get something in play there, that's going to do it, but he couldn't. So whether it was hurting him or not, game's hard too, right?
Yeah.
He could have struck out as healthy. Who knows? Who knows? But you give him credit. He looked good. He looked fine, and he had big hits early. So, that's the at-bat versus Snell, where that was the moment for me.
The only thing about Springer and the effect that the oblique might have had on it, like I said, we saw some uncomfortable swings that he had, but it seemed to sap him of a little bit of his normal power. He was just making contact, getting the ball to the outfield, and he's a very talented player, a great steps up in every postseason that he's ever been in. I thought it was pretty coincidental that the last 3 Game 7s in Major League Baseball in the World Series all featured George Springer as a leadoff hitter. 2017 Astros against the Dodgers. That was the year he was the MVP of the World Series. 2019 Astros against the Nationals, and Max Scherzer faced him in that game.
So right. I didn't even think of that.
That was the leadoff of the 2019. And then the next Game 7 was this one against the Dodgers. So that's really unusual that the same guy leads off 3 Game 7 World Series in a row for 2 different teams.
Yeah, you got to have some things go your way just to get the opportunity. But he's had a hell of a career. There's no question.
But I'm sure that's part of the reason why he talked his way back into the lineup at the top of the order, and that why John Schneider had great faith in him because of his track record in the postseason and especially the World Series.
And I like it, even though, you can, whether Schneider got, pushed into getting those guys in there. I love that. Like even Bo gutting it out, Springer gutting it out. That's what you want to see. Obviously you've got to make a decision if they can play or not. And at the end of the day, they gave you everything they could give you. And how do you not love that, regardless of the handicap, maybe in some areas? You just got to respect the effort that was given in both sides. Like even the pitchers coming in, there was no, I'm not sure this even happens a few years ago with the mindset of how we handle pitchers. It was just such a pleasure to see guys just wanting the ball, wanting to be in the lineup, and just laying it on the line. That's sports, man. It was great.
Yeah. And by next March, when the season opens, you can look at guys on their 183rd day between starts. That's what you're going to be looking at on opening day. So it really doesn't matter. Right. Rest when it's over, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, Max Scherzer, we transitioned. We went from talking about Springer to Scherzer, but Scherzer was a bit of a bully towards because of who he is, because of his reputation, because of his track record, because he's a first ballot Hall of Famer coming up in whenever he chooses to retire. But, the bullying of John Schneider started, and Schneider, I think, was a part of the one where he went to the mound and got yelled at by Scherzer. I think that was a great piece of theater, and that John Schneider was actually conducting it more than being victimized by it. I don't know. We've talked about it off air, but what were your thoughts at that moment that Schneider didn't call for a pitcher, even though normally the visits are by the pitching coach, although Pete Walker may have been scared to go out and talk to Scherzer. But at that time, earlier in the postseason, what was your thought watching Schneider go out and get yelled at?
Yeah, no, I did think he got bullied in the moment. But again, I thought John ended up handling things pretty well, all things being said. It's not like he left them in there to catastrophic results. He did end up going to get him shortly thereafter. That's Max. That's what you sign up for. That and he gave you what he could give you, and you can't argue with the results. So, I always think those things you learn, you live through them, and I think at the end of the day, John handled it pretty well. But yeah, there's no question Max is bullying his way through these playoffs. It's kind of comical.
You just think about the as soon as they won the league championship series, according to John Schneider, and that's why I feel Schneider was a part of the theater of the moment, because he kept revealing all these details. And Scherzer, right after they won the league championship series, Scherzer apparently was in Schneider's office saying, when am I going to start? What do I need to get ready for? When am I going to start? Not, am I going to start? It was, when am I going to start? And Schneider says, he said, hey, I'm just enjoying a beer. I'll talk to you later. And when he started game 3, or when he was told he was starting game 3, he immediately said to Schneider, well, that means I got game 7. Yeah. So, he's the pitching planner here. And I enjoy the enthusiasm, energy, confidence, and leadership that Scherzer shows. But now that leaves us with a question, which we'll also talk about later. How do you replace, if a guy's 41 years old, got hurt after one start, was out through most of the first half of the season, getting $15.5 million, how do you justify bringing him back? And if you don't bring him back, how do you replace that leadership, the ability to go up to Trey Yesavage between innings and whisper in his ear about what he's doing right, what he's doing wrong, and just being inspirational to what is going to be clearly a younger rotation next year? But we'll get into that later. I just think that the Scherzer aspect of it, the Springer aspect of it, the veteran leadership was as important as what they did on the field.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure you bring them back, though, at that price or whatever it's going to cost you. I mean, not that it matters. I mean, Rodgers can certainly, add that to the payroll and manage to survive if you think the leadership from Max is that important. But you can probably find it somewhere else. Maybe it's Shane Bieber coming back. There's other veteran guys that can also fill that role and maybe give you a lot more in the tank and contribute more than probably what Max is going to be able to give you next year, which I can't imagine is going to be a whole hell of a lot for a course of 162. But hey, man, who knows? I mean, if they brought him back at a decent price, say $10 million, and understanding that he might be there for more than just his 65 innings he's going to give you, maybe that's what you do. But I'd like to see them go get somebody that's going to really contribute and provide leadership. You can find it, but that was certainly something to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah, we'll go over in later episodes the list of free agents that fit into the description of guys. And there are free agents out there. There are going to be free agents out there, not with the career record that Max Scherzer had, but certainly with the ability to fill the innings and production that he gave the Blue Jays this year. There are plenty of guys out there. I looked at a list this morning, and I picked probably 5 or 6 pitchers on that list who are obviously more veteran because they're free agent type guys. So they're all at least 30 years old, but who we're not sure can provide that same mirror fogging intensity.
Well, he's one of a kind. He's one of a kind. Hey, Griff, if you'd have told me when they signed him and partway through the year when it looked like he may never pitch again for you, and Trey Yesavage was going to come up, and in Game 7 he was going to get the ball, and Scherzer was going to start it. Clearly, you would have thought people have lost their minds. So, I mean, for what transpired, it was pretty unbelievable. So, right, Scherzer is one of a kind in this game as we speak right now. There's no question about it. So,
every time I talk to the guy, and the first time I talked to Scherzer was in the clubhouse in Detroit when he was a member of the Tigers, and I was mesmerized by one eye blue and one eye brown. I couldn't take my eyes off of that. And I'm wondering if that's the same reaction that guys like Trey Yesavage have. They can't unlock eyes with this guy because it's so unusual.
There's a song in there somewhere.
Yeah. I was thinking Linda Ronstadt, but I don't think it was. Don't it make your brown eyes blue? I'm not sure. Let's talk about the Dodgers and the Japanese factor and how that could be the Blue Jays, or it could have been the Blue Jays. Not so much Yoshinobu Yamamoto, but that guy was clearly the difference maker. I mean, Game 2, complete game win. Game 6, 6 innings, and he had the lead when he left and was the winner. And he comes in and he gets 8 outs, the last 8 outs in Game 7 the day after. I mean, that is crazy. And, the fact that it was pointed out to me before Game 7 that Yamamoto in the Japanese league pitched a Game 7 for his team and threw 147 pitches in a complete game. So if you add up Game 6, 6 innings, and Game 7, 8 outs, it might be 147 pitches. I haven't exactly counted them.
Yeah, it's in the neighborhood.
He's the one. Roki Sasaki, the Blue Jays took Miles Straw contract so they could get international signing money, thinking they were going to sign Sasaki. And then, of course, we have the empty flight from LA for Shohei Ohtani. So the Jays actually believed that they had a great shot at Ohtani, must have believed they had a great shot at Roki Sasaki. And I know they were in on Yamamoto kicking tires because, they've really established a presence in the Pacific Rim, in the Asian baseball community. And none of them came to the Jays. They all went to the Dodgers. And it came down, even despite that, it came down to 2 outs away from the Blue Jays winning the World Series. I mean, do you think that the difference maker, obviously the difference maker was the Japanese presence, but do you find that as ironic as I do?
Yeah, no question. But hey, maybe because of this performance, maybe down the road this could tip the scales a little. You know what I mean? Maybe the next guy coming over who's watched this tremendous display of baseball might be, you know, more open to the the Blue Jays offers, just because now they're, you know, now they're alive in those things. Now, you know, if you're watching it, you're going, hey, Toronto's got something going on. Maybe they'll get the next guy. Maybe they'll get the next guy.
And the Japanese market, you know, when you're talking, nobody's going to cost you as much as Ohtani would have. And Yamamoto, clearly with a huge contract. Sasaki took less because he wanted to be in the major leagues. So the next guy is going to be somewhere in between, the next Japanese star. But I think the idea of, which was clearly visible, which was a theme even on the Fox network, is playing for a country. And you look at the TV ratings of this World Series, and Major League Baseball got to be thrilled that the ratings were so good in total, worldwide. But, you know, the Japanese ratings were the highest of any market. The U.S. was next, but Canada, say 9 million or 10 million out of, I don't know what we're up to as a country, 38 million people maybe. That is a huge, huge percentage. And that might be a determining factor, the fact that they were on TV in Japan playing the Dodgers. And what's your second option if you don't want to go to the Dodgers, or if the Dodgers aren't willing to pay? It might have become Canada and the Blue Jays.
Yeah, and I think, not that they don't do this already, but even more so now, that's your biggest calling card. That's your biggest selling feature to free agents. It is very special and unique, and no other team can make that claim. And it's not just talk. You can see it. It means everything. They are truly playing for a country. So when you're selling that to free agents, that's a real bonus. Like you can see, you can feel it. And as a player, it's you know, the old saying, Griff, and I hated it. It's all, oh, the Blue Jays have to pay a tax because they're Canadian. You know, and nobody wants to come here. That's all nonsense. I'll tell you, when the team was good, when I was there, when they were good, people were calling the Blue Jays. Just, can I play there? Because it was so electric in that building and across the country. So it's not a negative. It's a benefit. Obviously, you've got to be good. Nobody wants to play for a bad team, whether it's in Los Angeles or Milwaukee, but they want to play for good teams. But what a bonus. I mean, and what you can do outside of baseball. Ask Jose Bautista. Ask those guys what opportunities come along that you wouldn't get in, you know, Houston, so to speak. So it means everything. And that's, to me, what you've got to continuously sell for free agents, because it should work, in my opinion.
Yeah. You know, you got Vlad and Springer, but how many sponsors does a peanut butter and jelly sandwich need, you know?
You mean jelly and peanut butter?
Yeah, whatever. but
right.
Where the Blue Jays have had a head start, and where the Expos, what the Expos started was taking care of families and trying to make the difference between the U.S. and Canada, you know, clearing customs, trying to make that easy, finding a spot for families, trying to make that easy. And both teams succeeded. The Expos succeeded. Yes. The Blue Jays have definitely, and that's been since day one, they've been trying to do that, which sort of makes the transition to bringing a Japanese player or bringing Asian players in much easier. I mean, Hyunjin Ryu came over because the Scott Boras Corp was impressed, and he was impressed with what Toronto and the Jays had to offer. And you see it with this current
also
front.
Money.
Yeah. I mean, the money.
Back then.
I was going to get to the money factor.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the tax differential anymore, especially when you're making as much money as you are. It becomes a comfort thing, like where do I want to play thing. And, you know, the fact of a 3% differential in taxes, I don't think has as much, because how much can these guys spend? I remember during the series, I remember, well, we know how much they can spend, but they have better advisors now, you know.
Yes.
But I remember earlier in the series, some U.S. outlets, media outlets, were trying to make a big deal out of Trey Yesavage making a prorated $57,000, whatever it was, $57,000 or whatever, and they asked John Schneider. They asked John Schneider pregame, well, your pitcher was making this, and he was facing Ohtani, who was making that. And Schneider looked at him and went, I really don't know what you're talking about. I think the $8 million we gave him as a signing bonus 2 years ago would help. You know?
Took some of the pain away. Yeah.
Pain away. Yeah. Where they're not living in a ditch somewhere.
Right.
Okay, back to Game 7, and I think that just a thought that Miguel Rojas is this year's Bucky effing Dent.
Bucky effing Dent. That's right.
For the Blue Jays. I mean, do you think? And I have it crossed my mind a little bit, but do you think that that maybe Hoffman was looking ahead to Ohtani and saying, I can't put this guy on base. I got to get this guy a 9-hole hitter. I got to get
100%. He must put the ball in play. Like there's no way you could walk Rojas and have Ohtani come up. And obviously he gave him too good a pitch to hit. I mean, the thing with the criticism, I mean, Rojas is swinging out his rear end anyways, usually. Yeah. It's going to be hard to walk him. So, but 100%, he's like, this guy's going to put the ball in play, and you know, I can live with what happens. Not that, but I can't live with walking him and having Ohtani come up, because that would have been equally as frightening. I mean, so yeah, I think he just gave him too good a pitch to hit, and wow, unbelievable. I mean, just eye drama.
To me, that's why all the lost opportunities earlier in the game to add to a 1-run lead, and you know, it was 3-0, then 3-1, and the Dodgers didn't score more than 1 run in any inning. They just kept pecking away at it. Well, and if they had added a 5th run before that 9th inning, it would have changed it completely. I mean, he still would have gone after Rojas, but the home run, he would still have had a 1-run lead. And so, like, I think that it was a total team, not meltdown, because, you know, they got it to 7 games against a team that was, that was the defending champion, basically.
Well,
but there were so many factors, so many contributors to the loss that, you know, it's easy to point a finger at the bullpen and the run that Bassett gave up, and the run that Yesavage gave up, and the run, but they add up, and the Jays just didn't add on.
Well, it's just how big was that Muncy home run? It just seemed like it was a solo shot. Everybody's like, okay, but man, it got him within 1 and gave him a fighting chance. That was such a massive blast in the 8th. I mean, and that it set everything up for what we talked about a million times, Hoffman, and how that was going to look and how that was going to play out. It's like, wow.
That was the thing we talked about in the previous, when we were on the off day prior to Game 6, is that people were going to look ahead, and we could see the scenario coming up, a 9th inning of a Game 7, and Hoffman's on the mound, and how angst-ridden would the country be at that point. And, you know, but the thing we had also mentioned before the World Series even started was that you have to live with the fact that Jeff Hoffman is going to blow a lead in 1 game, because that's been his modus operandi all season. And that game had not arrived yet, and it got to Game 7. And we're going, like, I know that you and I talked about it, like, it hasn't happened yet, and we still believe it is going to happen. So I wouldn't have him pitching the ninth in Game 7, and we said that on the Thursday, the Thursday, the off day.
Right.
We said we wouldn't have him pitch in a window for a perfect window for Hoffman would have been the 7th inning when Yesavage came in for the top of the order. You could justify your closer pitching the 7th inning with a 2-run lead and facing the top of the order and not being available for the ninth, because we could all see that coming. I think fans across the country, fans in the stadium, the media in the press box could see that coming.
100%. That's what we talked about, and it set up perfectly, because even if he gives it up in the 7th, well, you went and got your closer to face the top of the order, the most important guys when the game was really on the line, so to speak. And if he gives it up, it's hard to be criticized there too, right? And if he gets through it, you've got Yesavage left, you got Dominguez left, and it just felt like that was probably, with what you'd seen all year, the better way to go about it. But that being said, he still just needed 2 more outs.
Yeah, and facing the 9th hitter in the order. But the Jays ended up playing 180 games. Do you feel in any way, because the usual suspects who stepped up and delivered for most of the season, it's baseball. These things happen. But do you feel like Dalton Varsho, Nathan Lucas, Alejandro Kirk might have hit a wall of games played in terms of, especially Lucas, who's not used to playing that many games, and Kirk, God bless him for catching as much as he did in almost every inning of the postseason, except for that one time when he got hit. And Heineman came in to finish that game. But do you think in any way, or it was just baseball and playing the excellence on the Dodgers mound and that sort of factor?
Yeah, I think it's hard to make that claim. We've seen Kirk look like he hit a wall and then all of a sudden come alive for a good stretch too, right? And just be as electric with the bat as ever. He never really seemed to fail defensively. Lucas had a tough postseason. So did Varsho. I mean, there was so much that went on, but Griff, that throw that Varsho made, shallow center field, that was as god awful as anything you could see. I mean, that kind of stuff, like what's wrong with the arm? That was more of a question I had. He certainly didn't get anything done with the bat. But I'm reluctant to say they were tired. I just think, everybody can't be firing on all cylinders at all times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just wanted your opinion on it, because it was obvious in certain situations. I mean, the Jays have thrived on the 3-run homer throughout their playoff history, throughout their postseason history. And every time in Game 6 and 7, when there were 2 runners on base, I'm going to myself, well, here it is. Here's the moment. Here's the 3-run homer that we expect out of every Blue Jays postseason hero.
Well, you got it early in the game.
It never happened. Yeah, but it's a shame to use it up and then get nothing else. One more run after that. But
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Here's another guy who didn't feel the pressure, Ernie Clement. I mean, here's a guy who got 30 hits in the postseason, and he broke Randy Arozarena's 2020 record, where Arozarena didn't have to travel because it was the COVID year, and they were playing all the games in one location. I think after the wild card series, they played them all at Global Life, and there was maybe out west at the Padres Stadium or Dodger Stadium, and then the World Series at Global Life. But Clement, I thought, and we've talked about it all season, is that Clement's best role is as a utility guy playing 130 games off the bench, putting him in spots to succeed. I've changed my mind on that. I think this guy could be an everyday position player. What's your thought on that?
Well, I think we're probably going to find out. I mean, he's certainly earned the opportunity, and I think you're going to see come into next season that's what he's going to be. Now, it's going to be up to him. What a wonderful player. I mean, that's what you want to watch. He's just a baseball player, as they say. Not to sound silly, but he plays the game hard. Even he runs every ground ball out hard. He's such a good defender. Look at the stolen base in the 6th inning on Glasnow. Just heads up baseball that almost won him the World Series. That run right there. You certainly think he's going to get a chance to play every day, and it's going to be up to him whether the offense can do it. I mean, sounds silly after getting 30 hits in the postseason, but obviously his career, he's never been a dominant hitter, but he sure has he's heady. He's a heady player who looks like he's learned how to hit at this level. So he's going to get every chance, and I want to see it. I want to see it. So hopefully he sticks and he plays 5-6 more years as a full-time player. But let's see what happens next year. I mean,
Mal, I just want to point out and remind you of one thing about Ernie Clement, is that he's a graduate of the Perfect Games Summer Baseball League, where Niagara Ironbacks play. He played for Albany several years ago. Yeah. And so it just shows you what can happen if you develop in the proper summer league with Mal and friends for the Niagara Ironbacks.
As did Louis Varland, who handled himself quite well in this postseason as well. So,
yeah. He played more games than almost anybody. And he's a pitcher. So.
There's no question about it. So, I mean, how do you not love Ernie and what he did? I mean, every time. I mean, you're watching. Who's this? Rod Carew up there?
I think an important factor in having Ernie Clement on board, and they don't need to think about signing him to a long-term deal yet. I think he's under control for at least 2 years, maybe 2 years before free agency. But it allows the front office to look at free agent second baseman or free agent third baseman and know that Ernie Clement can start at the other position. They don't have to declare what position he's going to play on an everyday basis right now. They can go out and look at second and third baseman and know that he can fill admirably and at a major league level, at a good major league level at either one of those.
And you usually find a third baseman that, is the thumper, and then that would make a lot of sense. But I mean, either or, whatever you find best available. Ernie, is clearly capable of handling either position extremely well. Not well enough to win a Gold Glove, but
right. Yeah, the Gold Glove announcements came out this morning as we record on Monday, and the Blue Jays had 5 nominees, including Ernie Clement at both third base and utility. And they got shut out. Well, no, they didn't get shut out because Ty France won, although we didn't see him play much first base.
Some seems kind of ridiculous, too. But
yeah. And that brings up the question of how the voting is done. And we've talked about it, Mal. You've handed out ballots to coaches for Gold Glove and Silver Slugger. And the amount of interest they put in it is ridiculous. They just think of their favorite guy or guys that had a good series against the Blue Jays, or I'm not just picking out Blue Jays coaches, but every team that I've ever been around, they just fill out names, hand it back, and that's it. So it seems ridiculous that for the utility Gold Glove that Clement couldn't even win that, and that Ty France beat Vlad Guerrero Jr. at first base when it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, it certainly defies logic a little bit, but the goal, we could talk about Rafael Palmeiro when he won at first base when he never played it.
Yeah,
this is not news. So unfortunately,
Which brings me to the elephant in the room. And in fact, the elephant might have had a better chance of scoring than Isaiah Kiner-Falefa did with the bases loaded. And this infuriated me. That in the ninth inning, representing the winning run in Game 7 of the World Series, IKF is taking a 2-step lead off of third base with a force play available at the plate, bases loaded, wild pitch, ball gets away, not very far. He's not going to score because he's only 2 steps off the base. And then on a ground ball to second base that's with the infield in is bobbled slightly, but he's got to be going as soon as he reads down. As soon as you reach trajectory down, you freeze on a line drive. As soon as you read the ball down, you go. But he's only 2 steps off the back. And then he slides into feet first on what's a force play at the plate. You run through the bag. You have a good secondary lead. You run through the home plate. You score, and they're celebrating, and the parade is going to be scheduled for Tuesday. That was so ridiculous. And yet there's justification being made that, well, you don't want to be doubled off on a line drive or back picked. Like,
that's right.
The third baseman is on the grass. He's right in your line of vision, and he's 4 feet farther away from the bag than you are. Like,
we've talked about it. I'm not as freaked out and adamant about it as you are. To me, everybody's yelling and screaming about the double up thing, which clearly I don't think is the major concern there with Varsho up. It's the back pick. You've got to be careful. The infield's in. You're not expecting to score on a ball hit right at the second baseman. And I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to have to go back and look at it again too. I mean, Muncy's there, and you just can't get back picked. Well, I totally agree with you on running through the base. I'm not sure what you're sliding for. There's no tag play coming. That's for sure. So
it's clearly sliding at first base, and nobody slides at first base, but it's the exact equivalent because it's a fourth play.
And let's not forget again, he's in the game because Bo couldn't run. And here's another key moment. Outside of that play, he comes up after the Vladdy double and bunts. He bunts. I hated that play, but you have IKF up instead of Bo. You know what I mean? And now you're giving away an at-bat there, which proved critical. I mean, so IKF had to come into a game again because Bo couldn't run. And that's one of those things the camera and IKF, and I hear you. I mean, you've got to be real careful. You imagine he gets back picked, Griff, Muncy, they put a play on, and IKF's pushing down the line. I know you're looking at me like that, but you have to be careful there. The ball's hit right at Rojas.
Now, I coached third for you in the Niagara Ironbacks, and you're in the press box, and you've second-guessed me on many things, but one thing you can't second-guess me on is my guy at third base not getting a big enough lead.
Agreed. Nobody got back picked.
What you tell your guy is you take a lead almost as far as the third baseman is from the back.
Right.
Then you get your secondary moving in, and as soon as the ball is in the guy's glove, you race back to the bag in fair territory. So if he's going to throw it, he's going to throw it through you. And besides, you can see the third baseman if he started over towards the third base for a back pick. Varsho's a left-handed hitter. He's going to be not lining a ball hard enough to third base to double you off. And third base,
for sure.
Because he's a left-handed hitter, the third baseman is going to be a little farther away from the bag. So you get a little farther off the base, and Bob's your uncle. You score the winning run, and the parade is tomorrow.
We're going to parade tomorrow. That's right.
Anyway, that's enough of that.
Yeah. I mean,
but I was disappointed in Carlos Feblis. I was disappointed in IKF saying, well, I was told to do that. This guy's a veteran ball player who's played in Texas, played for the Yankees. He clearly didn't play for the Niagara Ironbacks.
No, and you don't need to be told anything at that point. You don't need to be told anything. You know what I mean? I'll give you that. He's a veteran. You've been in this situation a billion times. But I don't think it's quite as egregious as you. But
it is the chance to win the World Series.
Yep.
So
Was
it
that
is
a big deal?
egregious, as I'm saying.
Right.
And this guy's a free agent, and he almost talked his way into coming back from the Pittsburgh Pirates. And he's a gamer. He's a veteran. He knows he's a good influence on the bench. But
And he contributed.
He contributed. And when Bo was hurt, he got a lot of action at second base. And then when Springer was hurt, then Bo was able to DH, and IKF got more action at second base. But his performance at the plate, I mean, he was just a solid replacement player. I think he only had the one hit in the entire World Series, or maybe even in the entire postseason. So as a free agent, I wouldn't be chasing after him.
Oh, God, no. No. He served this purpose, that's for sure. So to speak.
All right. Summary of the 7-game series. Just off the top of your head, and I'll read some names. Who would be your top 5 performers for the Jays in the series? I'll go Vlad, Clement, Yesavage, Jimenez, Bo, Bassett, Scherzer, Varland. Just name top 3 then.
Well, you got to go Clement, Vlad. Geez, that's interesting. I think all those other guys, are maybe Trey, but I mean, Jimenez was very important. Had some big moments. I mean, I'm not sure if you could really throw in a third guy and just distinctly say he was as important. I mean, to me, it was Clement and Vlad clearly, being ahead of everybody else, and everybody. There's a lot of other guys that were valuable. You got a third?
I would say on my list, I would have Vlad Guerrero Jr. first, Ernie Clement second, and I would have to go with Trey Yesavage as the third most important player in that World Series because it was so unexpected, and he was so dominant in that one game that the Blue Jays showed that they could compete, they could win, that they weren't intimidated by the Dodgers lineup. But Vlad, I would put first because of the fact that he is the face of the franchise. He's the face of that lineup. And Ernie Clement had more hits than Randy or Rosarena, but nobody feared facing Ernie Clement, and they game planned around the 3-hole or the 2-hole at times in the Blue Jays lineup, and that was Vlad. And he came through. I mean, he even came through with a double when they needed it and a chance to tie the game again.
How he hit that ball. That was in man. And his defense was spectacular. I've always thought Vladdy was a little overrated defensively, but man, he put on a clinic that World Series. He was even the first inning, Game 7, he made a diving play that you forget about now, but was critical. First guy got on, and he, Will Smith hit that, and he made a great diving play in the first inning of Game 7. That was great. So,
and Vlad has been fighting the perception that he's overrated, he's not worth the money. And that the Jays may have made a mistake, not because they were the only team that would be willing to sign him for that much money, which is a fact. There's no other team that would have signed him for that much money because he didn't mean as much to other organizations as he meant to the Blue Jays. So this postseason, this World Series, this series against the Yankees, I think the Jays are hoping or counting on the fact that this moves Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to the next level, to the next plateau, where he becomes the type of hitter that Aaron Judge is, that Jose Ramirez is, that hitters around Major League Baseball that you just accept from April to September when to come through. And this may have reached him to the next plateau that he needed to reach. And people forget he's only 26 years old. So he does have a chance to become one of those guys, but we'll have to wait another 4 months and maybe another 8 months to see whether that comes to fruition.
Yeah, for sure. And, like you say, that's the only thing left is that continuous excellence. Ohtani throw into that mix, right? Soto, those guys where you're just like next level superstars, and he's being paid like it. So I think you saw it certainly in the playoffs. He certainly did it. So I'm excited to see how that goes. I wanted to get your opinion too. I mean, at the end of the day, it didn't matter. But what did you think of Ohtani getting the extra time between hitting and getting to warm up twice?
Oh,
if you were a manager, Griff, you would have.
I pointed that out before the game even started. I said he's getting a lot of extra time here, and people were thinking I was whining about it. But yeah, there's a rule that has been on the books since the National League pitchers hit, is that when a guy runs the bases, you give him a little extra time to come up. But the Ohtani rule is only for one guy. The Ohtani rule is for one guy, and I'm sure it doesn't say in the Ohtani rule that if he's run the bases or if he's been on base, that we give him a little extra time because he's Ohtani. If that's the case, that's total bullshit. For one guy, you're going to change the rules. Like, that's kowtowing to one player, one organization. And you asked me whether I like it. Clearly, I didn't.
I was thinking of you when that happened, how you would have been up there screaming.
I would have been across the field to the umpires. I had a good relationship with the umpires in the Perfect Game Collegiate Baseball League. However, once the game started, it was like a snarling dog.
Well, competition.
Snarling dog with a sense of humor.
I definitely thought of you the first one, Ohtani twice, and Schneider had to, complain.
Trey Yesavage made my list of top 3 performers.
That's fair. I'll take that.
Trey Yesavage only has 3 regular season starts. Trey Yesavage benefited from the Major League's top defense, which he didn't have at Buffalo, Dunedin, Vancouver, or New Hampshire. But he also benefited more so, to me, from the veteran presence, because every camera shot of the dugout when Yesavage is there, he's surrounded by either Bassett, Scherzer, Gosman. If they lose some of those guys, does Yesavage end up being another Alek Manoah?
Well, let's hope not. I mean, that's a disaster. But I think, and as we talked about starting the year with Springer, regression isn't linear. Neither is progression. So he also benefited from nobody seeing him before at that level. So I think there's that too. But nothing would surprise me next year. He could just slot right in and be a quality major leaguer, or he could end up back in AAA too. It just doesn't work that way. You don't know what you're going to get. Clearly, you've got a star, talented pitcher. There's no question about that. But you don't exactly know how it's going to go. It's just not an automatic. So there's so much intrigue going into next year. But he'll be slotted into the rotation. But you just can't expect him to just pick up and dominate. Opposing, how scouting is at that level, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it would not be the worst thing. I mean, what you could look at as the role model for Trey Yesavage's immediate future is if he was like David Price. David Price, Vanderbilt first round, called up, pitches for the Tampa Bay Rays in 2008 as a rookie, hardly had any time in the big leagues, was a significant contributor in their loss to the Phillies in the World Series, and then went on immediately. There was no down part of his early career, went on to become one of the top starters in the majors. So that's what you're looking at for Yesavage, not the Manoah the model. But my question would be, without the influence of Bassett, who's a free agent, Bieber, who probably going to opt out, and the Jays can negotiate with everybody else because they can't offer him a qualifying offer because he was traded midseason. And Barrios, we don't know. I mean, the Jays didn't even mention his name for the World Series. And by the Jays, I mean even Sportsnet.
And was he even there?
He was not.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So who's going to be the influence on Yesavage if those guys aren't around?
Well, I mean, you've got another year of Gosman, right? And like you said, I think they'll probably try to solve that one way or another, whether that's Scherzer coming back or Bieber coming back or another veteran guy. I think I do think that's important. I think you're right. I think having somebody to bounce that stuff off of, and unlike Manoah, who they went in there as the guy. He was the ace. He was on his own, kind of type thing.
I think they made a mistake making him the opening day starter after his one good season when Gosman was,
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Just everybody's different, but clearly he wasn't. We know he wasn't prepared mentally to handle that, Manoah. And that's not a knock. That's just where he was at.
I mean, he went to the Braves. He may turn into what he should have been, but the 2-year gap, one of them being recovering from an injury, that was enough. And the stampede of prospects coming up behind him in the Blue Jays organization was enough where they could just let him go. I'm not 100% in agreement with the way they treated him, but that's fine. I mean, I hope he does return to where he should be with the Braves, but I don't think they made a major mistake at this point.
You make a great point, though, Griff, and I don't think people think about it much. How important is that leadership to a young pitcher like that Manoah didn't necessarily have, or too much was expected of him, too much pressure put on him to be just the number one guy, where maybe you learn, and you're not going to do that with Yesavage. He's not going to be the number one coming out of camp, and maybe you learn that you do need more of a support system and a different, a different way to bring the asset along, so to speak. So I think it's a great point you make, and I'm going to guess they are going to figure that part out here in the offseason and have enough of that around him.
We got 3 more items to cover here, and we'll do them briefly. First one on my list is people are talking about this being the greatest Game 7 of a World Series ever. Now, the people that are talking about this are the geeks who do analytics and put together a list of, turning point moments according to some
win probabilities.
Ridiculous formula they came up with.
Win probabilities changing.
Yeah, that was the one. I don't go by that. I go, and I'm just judging off actual World Series Game 7s that I've been to, that I've been in the press box for. And this is not in the particular order. I'll do it in chronological order of my top 4. And this one ranks in the top 4, but it begins with 1991 at Minneapolis with Jack Morris and John Smoltz, who were both in the building for game 7. It's crazy. Yeah. These guys, and that's the greatest World Series Game 7 that I've ever seen. 1-0. There weren't all those. What's the formula that you said?
That the win probabilities changing?
It was the tension factor in a game where Jack Morris went 10 innings, and I'm sure that in the privacy of the dugout, he was doing a Max Scherzer to his manager. Like, you're not taking me out. And he went out there and he pitched a complete game 1-0 win. And it wasn't like totally clean. There were moments where the Braves were threatening, and John Smoltz almost matched him pitch for pitch, and went 7 1/3 or 7 2/3. That was the greatest. That was a game that's the first one on my list. 2001 at Arizona. Mariano Rivera giving it up.
That little leader hit. Gonzalez.
Yeah. Lewis. I was sitting in center field writing 2 game stories. One, Yankees win. One, die, Yankees lose. so luckily I said the right one. But that ranks on my top 4 game 7s that I've been to. And then one that might be the greatest was 2016 at Cleveland with the Cubs winning against the Indians. Rajai Davis's home run.
Oh, Rajai.
That was crazy. And then this one, because of everything we've spoken about. I mean, what do you think of my top 4 list?
So this one's 4?
No, I was going chronologically. You're not listening to me.
Okay. Fair enough.
So I throw those in a hat and pull them out, and I wouldn't be wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I mean, recency bias is always a thing, right? And you always think the thing you just saw last is the greatest. That's kind of our current state of the nation as North American sports fans. But I still think it's hard pressed to put this one even below that Jack Morris one. But fair enough. It's hard to argue. I certainly recall that one very well. Those 2 to me are the 2 that just from I think there's a touch ahead of those other ones to me. But I mean, who am I to argue? I mean, it's just all those games were fantastic. All those games were fantastic.
One more in case Debbie is watching, my wife. 1979 Game 7, Baltimore. The Pirates come back and win. I have to do that World Series because there was a snow out in Game 1, and I asked this woman who was working in the press box to dinner when the snow out came, and that was Debbie. I ended up marrying her, so I got to include 1979, otherwise she'll kill me.
Was that your first time out with Debbie?
Oh, yeah.
No way. And where did you go?
We went to a nice restaurant in downtown Baltimore in the Inner Harbor when the Inner Harbor wasn't the Inner Harbor. It was like, it was dangerous, but I think she liked me for being a little dangerous.
Yeah. You were ready to protect.
Yeah. Secret agent, man. Where?
I mean, that's got to be number 1 then. Sorry.
Well, yeah. If she's watching, Debbie, that's number 1.
Yeah. That's right. Fair enough.
2 more small items here. Where do the Blue Jays go with Bo from here? To me, they have a couple of things that they could do, but I think that the World Series demonstrated how much they need Bo. What do you think?
Oh, he's so important. But I still think the ship sailed. I mean, I get it. Things can change at the last moment. The marriage, all of a sudden, you remember the good times, and they just happen. So the marriage, never know if it can be saved. But I kind of think that the divorce is already written. I think they're prepared to move forward with Jimenez. That being said, you never know. That was some sort of run for those guys, and maybe they find a way to come to an agreement. But do they need him? I think they do. There's no question. I mean, he's going to be. How do you replace that offense? They're going to really have to go out and make a splash to replace it. But I think Bo moves on to a different situation, and I just think that's what they're all mentally prepared to do. And I think the Blue Jays have mentally prepared, not mentally. I think they prepared for it by going out and getting Jimenez. What the plan is, he's going to be your shortstop for the next little while. So it'd be tremendous if they could find a way to make it work. But I just think that, once this settles down, Bo moves on. They figure out life without Bo. That's just what I expect.
Yeah. We've discussed that in the past, and we both agreed that was the likely scenario with Bo moving on. But I think that this World Series and this postseason run has turned it around for the organization. And as you said, is it too late to repair any damage that's been done? I think part of the positive move forward is that when Bo was coming back from his injury, he's the one who suggested he could play second base. And we saw Marcus Semien move from shortstop with the A's to second base with the Jays, and he made out fine in his next contract. It wasn't a problem. So I'm thinking that unless it's the Yankees and Dodgers and somebody who can go back to the postseason, who's likely to go, that is wooing Bo, I think that the strategy for the Blue Jays front office should be to let Bo explore the market. His defense is going to work against him. Let him explore the market, find his best offer, and tell him, don't sign there until you come back to us. But I wouldn't participate in ratcheting the offers up by, you've already accepted that he's going. So now maybe you change your mind and say, hey, if you're willing to play second base, come back with your best offer and we'll see what we can do. I think that this series showed that they need Bo's bat. They need Bo's offense. He had 181 hits before he got hurt, and that ended up tied for second in the American League. That's crazy that missing the last 23 days, he's still able to do that. And so I've changed my mind on Bo in terms of it being necessary, but I think it needs to be at second base. I agree with you that Andres Jimenez has demonstrated enough sort of clutch hitting ability to drive the ball every now and then, and his defense is without match on this team.
I just don't see Bo, knowing Bo a little bit, and you even more so, him quite willing to play second base yet. I think he still views himself as a major league shortstop. There's more money there. There just is. And I just, as knowing the competitor that he is and the options of Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, Braves that are probably all willing or in need of a possible shortstop, it seems unlikely to me, but I see the path to the Blue Jay solution for sure. But I just got to think he's going to go, I got a lot left in the tank at shortstop. I want to play short.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. And Bo is not one to share his feelings very much. I mean, he came up with a lot of one-word answers post-game 7. And I know it was an emotional time, but he would think, one word, next question. Yeah. So yeah, he's not going to share a lot of his plans, and we might be surprised. You
never know. You're right.
He might be more amenable to coming to Toronto than any of the Japanese guys.
That's right.
One more topic, one more question. I'm going to ask you this question, and then we'll end it. I won't even give my opinion. We can save that for a later show. There's so much to talk about as we go down the road here. The impact of this World Series run. I compare it to a spike in 93, after 92, 93, spike in registrations around the GTA, around the country, in interest in baseball. And we see that at the Futures game. We see that with the number of players going to NCAA colleges on partial scholarships. So do you see that happening again? And then how would you compare this to the Vince Carter phenomenon, where hoops popped up at the end of every driveway in suburbia in Canada when Vince Carter sort of popularized the Raptors? Do you think that, what kind of an impact do you think this World Series run will have?
I think you can compare the Vince Carter thing to the 92-93 Jays. It's kind of the birth of the sport in the country. 92-93, it was a build from 77, right? And it was the first time they reached those heights. And then Vince Carter, it was really the birth of basketball on a bigger scale. And you're right, it results in an explosion of registrations, which is the key. And, you see 20 years down the road, the fruits of that. I think this one, of course, you're going to see a boost. But unlike 92-93, that was a slow build. The interest was, a good almost 10 years in the making, like where that team was slowly getting better. The interest was gaining. This current thing, you had kind of 10 years of not so good, tough, not, and now instant gratification. I think you'll see the same thing, but they've got to maintain it. If they went back next year and win 80 ball games, I don't think you're going to see that sustained interest in the youth and because people lose interest when they don't win. So they're poised for it. I think you're going to see a real benefit in Blue Jay interest, but it's going to be just as sustainable as how they perform in the next year or two. They've got to stay relevant and they've got to compete. If they do that, I think you see the same thing, because this generation of kids, is playing basketball, is always playing hockey, soccer, and now baseball's got an opportunity to jump right back in and jump to the top of the list. That's how I see it. But they've got to sustain it now. It can't be a one-year thing. It just can't be.
Yeah, I just one opinion. I said I wasn't going to give one.
Yeah, no, let's hear it.
And I think that this World Series run by the 2025 Blue Jays will be this generation's 2015 bat flip run. And even though they didn't win the World Series, they didn't even get to the World Series, fans look back on that. Fans who were there, who are old enough to remember, look back on that so fondly as one of their favorite Blue Jays teams. And I think that even the frustrated fans from 2025 moving forward will look back on this as time goes by with the same affection that fans look back at 2015. And that's my last comment. Thank you all for joining us for the post-World Series edition of Exit Philosophy. And we have a lot more to discuss in terms of free agency and in terms of what the Blue Jays should be doing moving forward. So we'll keep going with Exit Philosophies. We won't go as long. This one was exceptionally emotional and in the immediacy of the World Series. And congratulations to the Jays for their season. And thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to share with your friends. And we will be back at you next week. Thanks, Mel.
And remember, folks, never get backpicked.
All right. So thanks, Mel, for hosting with me. And we will be back at you next week.
Thank you.